pleasant good morning to everyone, and welcome once again to another edition of the Carlos Brown Show, heard exclusively right here on the Open Mic Broadcast Network and Spreaker.com. Coming up on today's show, the guest menu looks like this. Both guests, two of them in hour number 2. Charles Edmond of the Alcorn State Radio Network will join me at about 11:03 a.m. Central Standard Time. And following Charles Edmond, Brandon B.J. Jones of HBCU Game Day, he'll join me at about 11:30. In hour number 1, we have some time to look back at last week's ball game between Southern University and McNeese State. Boy, I heard from a lot of you, and that's one of the things that you have to admire about Sports Talk Radio. Fans, they're fanatics. They'll let you know how they feel. They will definitely let you know how they feel. Southern University, 0-1 on the season, playing McNeese State. They lost 34-28. So many integral parts of this football game. We'll kind of give you the statistical story. Also, give you some text messages I received during the game. And by all means, try not to be so sensitive, because when a win comes for your team, you're happy. When you don't win, then, of course, you're not happy. You're unhappy. But constructive criticism is a good thing. You can look at the football game and kind of give your opinion. There are facts. So we're going to try to do that in hour number 1. Then I'll take a look at Southern University and Memphis. Of course, that game is what it is. It's a payday. That's simply what it is. But you want to see Southern have improvement from between game 1 and game 2. But that's a cliche for everybody. The most improvement. Even if you are coming off a victory, your team is coming off a victory, you still want to improve each and every game. So we'll give you a little bit of Southern and Memphis. That game will start in we'll say an hour at 11 o'clock. So I'm going to be on the air at 11 to 12. I'll give you updates. If you're watching, some say they're going to be watching the game but then listening to the show. Appreciate it. Southern University, 34-28. And by the way, congratulations to everyone whose team were victorious. Wasn't many in week 1 in the Southwestern Athletic Conference. And remember in the summer, I told you the first couple of weeks could be tough. And let me just say this, while it's on my mind, you talk about the playoff games and payday games, and you have several teams that are going to be receiving a nice monetary value for playing today. One being Southern University, $400,000. Prairie View is going to make a short trip to Houston. And by the way, we're going to have a little bit of talk of that. I'm going to tell you now, sometimes it's best to just be quiet. Don't say anything. Don't get tied up into the media there wanting a comment before anybody's played. You just go in that game. You try to execute your game plan, what the coaches laid out for you, and there you have it. But giving bulletin board material, don't do that. And I've seen several examples of that over the years. It doesn't come out well sometimes. In other words, you got to back it up. So don't say anything. No bulletin board material. Also, coaches are paid to win, put student athletes in a position to get their degree, and help them become young men and young women, if that be the case, if you're coaching a women's program. With that comes the glory, but also, when you win. But when you don't do so well, there's going to be some criticism. Now, is the criticism fair? Is it on point? Is it fact? Is it opinion? Those are some of the things you have to consider. And I can think of a couple of fan bases in this conference. It can get pretty brutal quick. So remember all of that. But let me do this right quick. Give you just some basic numbers. McNeese over Southern University, 34-28. 5 turnovers by Southern University. 3 on special teams, 2 by Ladarius Skelton, the quarterback. Led to 24 McNeese points. It's another game that was played on a Sunday that turnovers led to 28 points. And guess what? Both of those teams lost, Southern and Jackson State. You can't turn the ball over and give the opposing team a short field. The Jaguars outgained McNeese, and we'll pull it up right quick. 342 total yards on 68 plays for Southern University. McNeese, 303 on 76 plays. So they had 8 more plays. The defense performed well for Southern University, I thought, in spite of being put in difficult situations. Trying to defend the short field, turnovers will just literally kill you. Special teams performance was just simply horrific. Skelton has to play better. He knows that. He's the starter. No quarterback controversy. How dare anybody try to start something? Huh? There's those microphones. They'll come up and, well, Coach, what do you think? Is there a quarterback controversy? It's good to just have a quarterback, a starting quarterback, and a quarterback that can come in and the performance level won't drop off. In this case, McDaniels played better. Albeit Skelton had 2 long touchdown passes. Once again, you know that. He can throw the long ball well. It is the other aspects of the offense. And then here's where I say, in a perfect world, I would love for Southern University to have an offensive consultant like the big schools. Hell, they hire about 10 consultants, and they break down film. I'm going to get back into this a little bit later. This offense has enough weapons to be diverse. You've got to open it up. And teams are not going to allow you just to throw the deep ball. Shame on the offensive coordinator. Now, some will say, well, wait a minute, franchise. You're criticizing the offensive coordinator and they outgained McNeese State, but I'm looking at the bigger and the deeper picture. This is something you've seen the last couple of years. Let's utilize all the weapons in your arsenal. Don't be predictable. And I thought they were just a bit predictable. Offense has to become more diverse. Tight end, slants, intermediate passing routes. That's what you want to see. So, after all what we're going to talk about, recapping the Southern McNeese game, those guys, they forgot about it. They should have, because they got to be focused on Memphis. And by the way, Southern University will be playing their 1,000th game in the history of the program in about an hour, or less than an hour, at Memphis. So, Southern University outgained McNeese 342-303. 5 turnovers. Just did them in. That's the number one culprit in the loss. Glennon McDaniel for Southern University, 11 of 19, 135. Ladarius Skelton was 5 of 9 for 104 yards, 2 TDs, was sacked twice. McNeese, I just thought Southern was the better team, but they didn't show it. And going forward, now that FAMU game to me looms huge at FAMU in Tallahassee the week before you open up SWAC play. And then also, besides North Carolina A&T and South Carolina State, is it just me? do you feel the same way? And I'm going to bring in Dr. Prince in 1 second here. Winning the conference, that's a given. That's your goal every year. But, man, golly gee, I'd like to win some non-conference games. McNeese now 13-0 against the Southwestern Athletic Conference team. And I've had people tell me, well, yeah, but you got to win the conference. Duh, I know that. But don't you want to win non-conference games? And to me, North Carolina A&T, they get it done. Not just this year, but the last couple of years. South Carolina State with a big victory. Pushed them up in a lot of people's polls, which we'll talk about polls with Brandon B.J. Jones in hour number 2. Dr. Michael Prince. I call him Dr. Brother Michael Prince. Good morning to you, sir. Do you think I've kind of got some of my points across in the show so far?
Well, first and foremost, good morning, my brother. And yes, you've gotten your points across, and I think elegantly, if you allow me to add that word to it. But in defense of your Jags, I look at the glass as half full versus half empty. I'm going over. I'm listening to you go with the dialogues of the numbers, and I know it's not about moral victories, but as you stated, when I have 6 fumbles and I lose 5 of them, I can't expect to beat many teams, regardless if I'm outplaying them or not. So those things to SWAC or Jag Nation, that's not an Odom problem. That was more of a mental problem. I asked them that throughout the press conference this past week. It's about securing. Now, if you're asking me from outside looking in, guys feeling good. They were projected to win the West. They had a little swag coming into it, and you got to have swag when you hit the field. But I think they were reading more of the press clippings than to go out and just actually execute. And I think that kind of bit them. They'll come to reality this week, but it's going to be a tall order taking on Memphis. We know it's a payday, as you mentioned. But you have some valid points. It's not time to hit the panic button yet. I look at this one as the one that got away. I know it's an L in the column, but they physically outplayed McNeese.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Anybody who's attacking Coach Odoms, shame on you. But now, I will point to something concerning to me as far as the play calling. And look, I'm not a coach. Everyone knows that. I'm a sports talk host. But I've got some text messages that I'm gonna get in here in hour number 1, and I think some people are seeing the same thing that I am seeing. And against, if you didn't have those turnovers, do I believe Southern wins a football game? Yes,
absolutely.
Statistically, they had more yards. I have colleagues that have told me over the years, statistics are just that. They can be twisted, for lack of a better word.
Right.
But then I always counter with, well, statistics also, they tell a story.
And you know what the story I'm seeing, Brother Brown? When I look at the statistics of a game, and I look at some categories, and I say, okay, this is what's important to me. And what's important to me, I'm looking at the penalties. Southern only had 3 penalties called against them. McNeese had 16 penalties called against them. Okay? Southern only punted. I'm sorry, Southern had 9 penalties called. McNeese had 16.
Yeah, 9 for 70.
Yeah, right, but Southern only punted 3 times. They only punted 3 times, brother. And like I said, I know they said if a frog had a glass bottom, he'd break it every time he land. You take away those.
That's a new one. I haven't heard that one before.
That's old. You know,
is that a geographical saying?
That's
St. Louis?
Special. Yeah, I have another one, but I have to tell the other one off of air.
Okay.
But if you take away these turnovers, you just mentioned there were 24 points. Coach Odoms mentioned there were 24 points off of turnovers in your side of the field. Man, it doesn't look like it, and I know it doesn't feel like it. Just like with my win over Texas Southern. Yeah, we won, but there's a lot to be improved upon, and I'm going to be looking for it today. But man, don't
Yeah.
hit the panic. Don't hit the panic button just yet, Jag Nation.
Nah, I don't think they will. But one thing I appreciate about the Jaguar Nation, they let you know how they feel.
And you need to. You need to. But
Yeah,
don't make it personal, though.
No, I don't think it's personal. But you kind of see some trouble on the horizon if some things are not addressed. And again, as I said earlier, I know some people will say, "Well, wait a minute, 342 to 303. You went up 14-7. You had Hunter register with a nice long reception. Bedford, the other transfer from Texas State." And you see the potential there. That's why those five turnovers really played a huge part.
Yes, sir.
And going forward, I think ball security was talked about, preached to the team on the bus ride back from Lake Charles. I have a couple of responses already. Thank you to Alcorn State fans, boy. I tell you, somebody's created a monster here. That's what I'm gonna tell you. Let me pull it up right quick. A&T is the flagship. Definitely time for the SWAC to win some of these games. I agree. Non-conference. Alcorn has McNeese next week. Got to get it done. Now, you know what? I'm going to be pulling for Alcorn, but then there's that but. But if Alcorn State wins against McNeese, they don't turn the ball over. Then that kind of makes, if you're a Southern fan, that makes you kind of wow. You've already, you know the record, how the lack of success against Alcorn. They go
smoke?
in there. Yeah, we'll hear that. Thanks a lot, D. Q. I got another one I would like to read. But there's a question from a listener. Do you think A&T can beat a Southern Miss or a McNeese State team? He says, I don't think so. Different type of team in the South. And I'll take a stab at this one. A&T could beat McNeese State, North Carolina A&T.
Yes.
Southern Miss,
that's a tall
they
order.
could, but that's tough. I don't think they
order.
Yeah.
They would, to be honest with you, based on what I've seen from McNeese State, A&T would not have a problem with McNeese with the style of ball that they play. But like you said, that Southern Miss would be a tall order. And McNeese won the game, but they didn't win the battle. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah, and back to Southern again defensively. Talked about that a lot during the summer. It's no secret. Run defense and being consistent in stopping the run. They did a great job, I thought, against a team that's in transition. Let's just be honest, but still an excellent opportunity. Now, 2 weeks from next week, maybe a different story. Now, they've got a payday game tonight against Oklahoma State.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's going to be tough, and so Alcorn may be catching them at the right time. But they're going to be fired up because their fans have stated, we're going to defeat the top two teams, quote unquote, in the Southwestern Athletic Conference, and we'll be the SWAC champions. Oh, that's not funny at all to me.
Well,
that's not funny. I know they're being facetious, but it's a big ball game. So my point, and I want to hear from everybody, it just sticks in my side, these non-conference games, and particularly when you play the Southland, and there's going to be some opportunities in the next upcoming weeks, starting today, even with Texas Southern, Prairie View, and Nicholls State. You got to win these games. Start having some success, is what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm. No doubt. You don't have no argument out of me for that one, brother. It's going
Well,
to be a
I know
close.
I know we'll have some disagreements some point during this show. I
I can
understand
almost
that.
guarantee that one.
Well, and I have some feedback which I like. North Carolina A&T can beat any top 10 FCS team on any given Saturday. Now, the way you phrase that, on any given Saturday, that makes the statement different.
Yes, because a broke clock is right at least twice a day.
But they will. North Carolina A&T has had success winning out of conference, and it'll be interesting to see if they're going to be playing in some of the SWAC MEAC challenges in the future.
No, they will not.
See, because now I've kind of heard some things that I would have said what you just stated, but now I'm kind of hearing some things that I don't know. We shall see.
Well, here's my
But
question to your guy that just sent the message. How does he feel that A&T would handle up against North Dakota?
Well, I think North Dakota State, you mean, right?
Yeah, North Dakota State, yes.
I think they're playing what next year.
I think so. But how do they get to play 9 home games? That's what I don't get.
North Carolina. I mean, I'm sorry.
North Dakota State.
North Dakota State.
How do they get to play 9 home games?
Well, they're in the conference, and just like say if Prairie View has 5 home conference games, then the next year it'll flip. So wow, they must have most of those games are at. That's still a lot. 9.
Nine,
wow.
brother. You only have 11,
I can see in the
11,
conference you could have 4 or 5.
Right.
And maybe non-conference games, maybe they got all home non-conference games. So let's say if it's 11, it's 12 this year, it's 11 next year, and 3 maybe non-conference games all at home. So that means they have 6 conference games at home. Well, that could be possible. Could be possible.
That's a lot of home games, man. That's a lot of home games.
But that would be a good measuring stick when that game is played. Another listener, CC, says when Southern lost to McNeese State, they gave away their potential 11th win. They will go 10-2. Thanks for the points off of turnovers stat. CC, I understand that's a lot of confidence. Oh boy, I'm getting messages all over the place, and I appreciate it.
I would love for that statement to be somewhat true about going 10-2. I wouldn't be upset with 9-3.
Okay.
You know where I'm going with that one, right?
Yeah. I'm gonna get to your players. Your institution. There is etiquette when doing interviews, and I know you know what I'm talking about. Keep your mouth shut on some things. You don't have to slap the line in the face after you when you come up to it unless you can back it up. I have heard this, and what I want to talk about quickly right now. A&T is the flagship. Definitely time for the SWAC to win some of these games. I read this earlier. Alcorn has McNeese next week. Got to get it done. Per MEAC SWAC Challenge officials at our media day doing the interview with Charles Edmond, and I did see John Grant there. 2022, they will play Southern in the SWAC MEAC Challenge. So that was, I guess, from John Grant.
Okay.
Of the Celebration Bowl, 2022. So I had heard that, but you couldn't confirm it. And I also heard Alcorn State and North Carolina Central will play
next year or the year before next.
Yeah. So with that being said, A&T and Southern, wow. Last time I saw them play was in Vegas, and I actually was at that game. Funny thing about that, it was a great time. I walked halfway down the strip, turned around, up. I'm not an 18-year-old guy at that time, no. and then riding with some individuals, as the former Coach Richardson would say, missed the plane flight,
Oh my.
Back to New Orleans. Had to stay all day in Las Vegas airport. Luggage was already gone, and then had to take an overnight flight to Atlanta. The good thing was Dominique Wilkins was on the flight in first class.
Oh.
Got a chance to see him and his lovely wife. That was a long flight. And it was supposed to be at work Monday morning.
Oh, wow.
Go figure.
You were a bad
Didn't
boy
happen.
that weekend, huh?
Yep.
What happens in Vegas stays in Vegas, though.
Oh, I wasn't that bad. Not that way. No. Very expensive there.
Oh, yeah. My brother lives in Vegas, so trust me, I know.
Well, with that being said, thanks to a listener, North Carolina Central and Alcorn, 2021 in SWAC MEAC Challenge. So you think I'll be in Atlanta?
I'm
2022.
I'm thinking there's going to be a remote show from Atlanta in the near future.
Yeah, well, I have a couple of planned this year. One on the reservation. And in Jackson.
Ooh.
Intriguing. And you know, I may have to hire extra security.
Well, it ain't no May to it, brother. You're going to have to. You're going to have to. It's just like the fortunate thing about me, when I play against Grambling, I'm already around extra security because we're at the State Fair Classic. But if I ever have to go on the campus of Grambling, I know I'm going to need some extra security.
Yeah, I understand. A listener says they play more non-conference games at home. They sell out. So even as an FCS team, they pay non-conference teams to come play them. That's about North Dakota State.
Well, no,
and by the way,
I knew that, but that's still a lot of home games.
Yeah, and by the way, Southern and McNeese, Southern did get a monetary value in playing that game, and some other perks last week against McNeese State. But those games, and I posted an article on the Carlos Brown Show Facebook page, a couple of articles, and just to kind of get your feedback on these play-up games, paycheck games, being facetious. And an article today by Jim Klein Peters says that Coach Banks is looking for some more type of games like Memphis. Now, I know they play Troy in 2021, but those kind of games are type of games you'll be able to get, okay? But he says in the article, and I paraphrase, trying to get those games will start becoming difficult because the Power Fives are going to start playing those non-conference against the Group of Five. So that kind of will knock out their potential people to play, teams.
Mm-hmm. There's going to be a domino or trickle-down effect.
So I would suggest, just from the outside looking in, if Southern University, a P. Richardson Classic, you need to try to develop that to where it's going to be a first-class event.
Right.
And you notice I said event.
Yes.
No secret, I would, and I know they got a bit, a little bit more to travel, Winston-Salem State, where Coach Richardson coached at.
Right.
Because you can't live off of those games. And when it dries up, and I personally just don't like them. That's nothing new.
You don't like the classic games?
No, wait a minute, no. Well, you could do home and home, but I'm saying like those play-up games.
Oh, the play-ups. Okay, I got you.
Like Prairie View, they're not traveling for, but they're playing Houston.
Right.
Today.
Right.
Jackson State at South Alabama.
Right.
Grambling State at Louisiana Tech. My goodness, 2:30,
which is going to be
p.m. on the NFL Network.
Right.
Yeah. So, hey.
So you don't think the Tigers have a fighter's chance against La Tech?
Very difficult assignment. Very difficult. I'm just being honest. I mean, it's going to be hot, over 100 degrees for both teams.
Yeah, especially that.
But 85 and 63, there are some exceptions. But for the most part, that's going to be tough. But I know Graham's going to show up, and they're going to give an outstanding effort. But let's just be honest. Let's just be brutally honest. See, you can't have your feelings on your shoulders.
Say it, sir.
It's going to be tough for Southern today.
Uh-huh.
And if there's not some improvement in ball security, it could get away from them early. Memphis defeated Ole Miss.
Right.
And Memphis, their starting offensive line are all former tight ends. And I watched a little bit of that game. They've got 2 defensive tackles that will play on Sundays. You know what? They're going to try to be basic. They know who they're playing. They're playing the FCS team. And in the article that I posted on the Coles Brown Facebook page, the Memphis commercial, the picks, once again, maybe I need to follow the same advice. I got my feelings on my shoulders. You go read that article. They give predictions, but guess what? They're more excited about what? The human jukebox.
Mm-hmm.
And the first thing that came to my mind was a court jester. But no,
wow.
I don't want to take a shot at no band. That's part of, that's part of the event, the game.
Hold the brakes.
No. Go look. That's the way they feel.
Okay. I was like, wait a minute, Brother Brown.
No. I'm not talking about. That's what I thought about when I go read the article.
Okay.
Well, we know who's gonna. We know they're not have no chance in hell winning the game. None. Right. That's what the way they feel.
Well, part of their contract
the biggest,
agreements is you bring the band with you when you play these play-up games.
Yeah, well, I was told by a reliable source that Jackson State's band's not. If I'm wrong, correct me. They won't be in Mobile. I know when Southern played the University of New Mexico, when it's organization of black instructors at New Mexico, when they found out the band wasn't coming, they raised money in a matter of hours to get Southern's band there. You see where I'm going? Mm-hmm. The biggest entertainment for them is the band coming.
Right.
Because they don't want to see the football game, basically.
Right. Well, let's be honest. Sometimes all the football game is to, I'm going to say, a few majority. It's a source of entertainment. They don't care about the game. They're looking for the events that lead to the game or during the course of the game.
Mm-hmm.
They're not interested in the game. That's why our struggle of getting attendance to improve. We think it's about the game, which for the purists, it is about the game. But to get that casual fan, you got to create events that's going to be family-oriented, children-based, that will make a person want to spend their extra coin to come out and be a part of the event, which leads to the game.
And I do not get into debates, and I see them all the time within the Jaguar Nation, other institutions. The band is important. It's part of the game day atmosphere. But I'm not going to get into debates and arguments about, 90% of the people there or 80% of the people there, most of the people there to see the band. No, I actually like the football game. And when I'm going, I'm like, I heard Randy Moss on the interview this past week in Baton Rouge talking about when he watches his son play at LSU, he's not looking at what he's doing well. He looks to see what his son needs to work on. And that's how some people are, when you look at a game or if you're at a game and you're in the stands, I'll tell people, now look, I don't mean any harm. I'm going to cheer and be happy when good things happen, but I'm looking to see what the team needs to work on. What can they be doing better? That's just me.
Well, and that is part of the challenge that a person like you or I have, because we're looking for the improvement areas. We're looking for not being critical or quote unquote haters. You're just looking at how the program can improve. And the problem is we're attracting casual fans instead of hardcore fans. And so they'll be like, oh, don't feel so bad. We almost won. Almost only count in hand grenades. I don't want an almost win. I want the win. What could we have done to make it better? Now, we just talked about the 5 turnovers, and we'll talk about PV a little bit down the road. Yes, there were some things that went good, but what can make us better when we tighten up these loose ends, these wrongs. And the average person that doesn't understand the big picture, they'll look at you and I as being public enemy number one towards said institutions.
I was just told, say, can you turn your mic up?
Can I turn my mic up? I sure can.
Yeah.
Okay.
I know you have that mellow voice.
Oh my God!
But they want you to boom in there.
They want me to boom. Okay, I didn't want to be overthrown. Is that better?
No, I'm sure that person will let me know in a second. Yep, no sonic boom in Mobile today. But and it's interesting that some of our fan bases, they like playing those guarantee games. But I found over the years, particularly in Louisiana, within the Jaguar Nation, I've talked to some people that they rather play those games, like a Memphis or a ULL, which, by the way, Texas Southern will travel to Lafayette.
Right. That's next week.
And they could care less about playing McNeese and Southeastern. Those are the games I like for Southern and teams to play and then win. I saw the benefits of playing Northwestern State for 10 years. Now, it ended up being 5 games to 5 games, but the first 4 or 5, Southern dominated and won. And it set the tone for the season. So, in other words, do you want your team to be successful outside of the conference as well as winning the conference?
Yes, you better.
I mean, that's what I would say, but, hey, I may be in the minority on that.
I'm all for, as I mentioned several times, I want to be challenged, but I want to be in a game that I know I have a legitimate chance of winning. And I don't want no powder puff, cream puff opponents. I want opponents that's going to push my players, that's going to push my staff, and that's going to help accent my program and not just say, oh, yeah, you won 7 games, 9 games, but 3 of your opponents weren't even worthy of lacing up shoes to play at the halftime performance, let alone play in a regular competition. So the balancing act is we got to be willing to step out of our comfort zones, and like you take that one on the chin from McNeese, but where you have as a gauge, and where this is where I gotta go. Look, if this was poor clock management, if it was bad personnel decisions, I could see, we got a problem. But when I go out there and I kick your tail, and then all I have to point to are turnovers, and we all know that has nothing to do with coaching. Nothing to do with coach, because the coaches are not throwing the passes, they're not running the balls, they're not handling punts. That, and we don't drag and beat up on the student athlete. But if the truth be told, if this was a professional rank, whoever was fumbling the ball and making the bad throws, it would have been a brouhaha, like, we need to get rid of X, Y, Z. We're paying them that amount of money. But we're talking about student athletes, quote unquote, and I use this loosely, non-paid athletes, going out there to compete. So it's a different spectrum as far as I'm concerned. But if I'm talking about building a solid college program, I'm going to put myself in a position. I think regionally, you got enough programs, if they're willing to play us, that you can get a decent payday, you can get the win, and you can put some legitimacy to your conference and your program.
So next week, I got the magnifying glass out and looking critically at Prairie View hosting Nickel State.
That is, and I'm gonna say that's a do or die game for several reasons. Number one, it's a do or die game if Prairie View is to be taken legitimately. Okay? It's a do or die game to represent the conference. Okay? It's a do or die game to see exactly what your team is made of. Because if I'm going to be honest with myself and true to myself, University of Houston have to try to run up the score against Prairie View today because of their performance against Oklahoma. And the University of Houston wants to be considered a legitimate big boy contender. Okay, they want to be part of the Big 12. They want to be considered for FBS playoffs. They're going to have to make a statement. And unfortunately, Prairie View is the next person up on that schedule. Does that mean that I don't want Prairie View to win? No, it doesn't. It's just being a realist, as you were saying. So how Prairie View responds to this U of H win or loss, and then you come back to earth on someone who's quote unquote in your playing field area, it's going to be a critical deal. How do you deal with adversity? How do you deal with success if success comes? So this is going to be a true measuring stick. And then, guess who we got after that? We travel to Lorman, Mississippi, to the smoke country.
Yeah. I tell you what, you can look at it like, well, Southern plays Memphis. Memphis is going to be the best team that they'll play all year on their schedule.
Right.
Can't get any more difficult than that. But you still have to improve. And when you play a conference team, another FCS team, yeah, you really want to be successful. Let's see. Well, I said I want to read some of the text messages that I got during the game, and then lo and behold, I just got one right now that I would like to read. And he says, "Wrong, Dr. Prince. Odoms chose to put a player on the field who muffed 2 punts, didn't understand the fundamentals of when and when not to fair catch a punt. That's coaching all day, every day. Hashtag no excuses."
Okay.
Then I had one guy
May I respond to that?
Yeah.
May I respond to that? As a former player, coaches will tell you what to do, when to do, and how to do all day and twice on Sunday. But when that player gets out on that field, if they're like a deer or seeing headlights for the very first time, that's not coaching per se. That's about a mental collapse. That's why I asked not Dooley, but Dawson during the press conference, does he think that his team's struggle was due to mental approach versus the physical approach? So you could try to twist that and blame that on coaching, and you tell a good coach, reinvest. Okay, kids, you muffed it the first time. I got confidence in you that you know what to do, how to do, when to do. Then when he muffs it the second time, now if he puts him out there a third time, shame on the coach. But I can't allow y'all to twist that.
I may have pulled him after the first punt just to see. So that's up to the coach. And then you had all summer, you thought, and fall camp. Do you have a backup?
Well,
a guy back there to
do you put
punt?
When you're out there coaching? When you're coaching,
because Skelton got pulled after 2 fumbles.
After 2 fumbles, but when you are coaching in the middle of a game, you put the best player you think that's going to get the job done. Okay, and if this is your best player, and if you pull your best player after one mistake, you shot that kid's confidence for the rest of the season. But after the second, it's justifiable. Yes, you're absolutely right. Kid, we're going to have to go back and work on tightening up some things next week. But go over there and sit down and think about it. Who's the next man up? So,
and I think the guy back there was a defensive back. And I don't think he'll be back there today.
Well, no, because that's what the next week of practice is. Now, I can guarantee
and I think you would look for, like when you have an onside kick, and you have your hands team back there.
Right.
I think I would have tried a receiver or somebody like that But I'm sure that this will be corrected for today's game.
And my final statement, even if you do fair catch, you still got to catch it. So,
yeah.
I mean, it's easy, and he's the head coach, and I understand that, the head coach is going to get the shine when it's going good, and he's going to get the rain when it's not going good. But I personally, and I've been on the record for saying, I don't think this was a coaching loss. This was a mental loss for Southern. It was a mental loss.
Unfortunately, the way this society is, if you have more of those games like McNeese, that he's going to get turned up even more.
I can imagine.
The CEO is, whether you fair or not, he's going to be blamed.
True.
For that. So I just think it has to be some balance. Constructive criticism is warranted sometimes.
Now, was he justifiable because I also asked the question, hey, you pull your starting quarterback. Was that a shot fired warning that, hey, you got to get your act together? No. His response was, no, there is no controversy at quarterback position. We put in a guy, Bubba was very capable of executing, and he did well, and he moved the team. He said we call the same plays. So do you now sit Skelton down for the rest of the season because he had a bad start?
No, who would think that?
Well, I'm just saying. So, I mean, just like they said, well, you put the kid in there twice because he muffed some punts. Skelton had 2 turnovers too.
Yeah, but I mean, I would have set him down for a series or two to kind of calm himself down, and then I would have put him back in there. But it didn't happen that way. So you have to live with the results. And Bubba McDaniels had a better statistical game than Skelton. Now, if you're any kind of competitor, and I think he is, I think he comes out and performs much better today, albeit against an FBS team, which is still going to be difficult. But yeah, one game you don't say that, oh boy, that's the end of the world, that's the end of the season. But you must improve from game to game. And I guess what has, if I can speak, well, maybe I can't speak for other people, but it's just the way that they lost. You knew you were the better team, but it didn't show on the scoreboard.
Right.
Those 5 turnovers, I know we talked a lot about that. And that's why that game really sticks into people's
and it does, and it should. And let me ask this question to you and to whoever that was that sent in the comment. What can the coaching staff improve on from week 1 to week 2? We talk about the players, but what can the coaches do to improve from the 5 turnovers? What can the coaches do?
The turnovers, all you can do is preach ball security. What you want to do? Hey, you take the ball, you drop it in practice, you take the ball with you when you're not at practice in the classroom, have the security. You've got to improve with that. Now, other things that I think, and that leads me into this. I got this during the game. Yep, offensive approach was puzzling. Hardly any digs, quick slants, or short intermediate crossing routes. While I was happy with the long TD passes, we didn't dink and dunk to move the clock and wear down their defense. Also, you can tell me with spring and summer practice that you couldn't find one person that can field a punt. That's coaching. Plus, how do you let the same kid muff a second point? We kind of already talked about that last point with the special teams. And then I was sitting after the game and thinking, now I'm going to go back to the 90s. When Southern used to play Jackson State, Southern's offense reminds me of Jackson State's offense in the 90s, where they did have success. It was either feast or famine, boom or bust. Making a big play. If they didn't make the big play, they were very inconsistent. They didn't really drive down the field. everything was predicated on the big play. Now, fast forward to 2017, 18, and 19. But specifically 2019 in the game against McNeese State. 2 long touchdown passes, I consider long. And that's it. And with that type of offense, if it's predicated on the big play, if you're getting the big plays and the big touchdowns and scoring, that's great because you're getting the points on the scoreboard. But what does it do to your defense?
Are you asking me?
And yeah, well, in general, and it's inconsistent. If they don't make those big plays, they're 3 and out. They're 3 and out.
And you wear them down.
Defense,
you wear them
down. Yeah,
the
defense, and that's all I'm saying on that situation. And that's was to my earlier point. They got to utilize all the weapons, and in the spring and the summer, and we talked about it on the show. It was about how Skelton had improved going through his progressions, his checkdowns. But based on the first game, you didn't see that. You didn't see it. And the coaches said that's where he improved the most. So let's start seeing that. And then that's why I think it goes to, I wish they had a offensive consultant, like Alabama has about 10 of them they hired, where they look at film, they just break it down, and look, utilize, you've got a 6'6", 250-pound tight end. Slants. You've got a lot of weapons. Utilize them. To me, what I am saying is, based on this game, first game of 2019, and somewhat in last season, Southern's offense is predictable. The athleticism of Skelton, and he can throw down the field well. But can he make the other passes? You go back and look at the SWAC championship game. Miller Field's wide open all day. No slants. No digs. No comeback routes. It's either feast or famine. Big plays or not.
Okay, and hit the pause button just for there. Do you believe if you and I are noticing that, if you and I sitting up in the bleachers can notice that, or in the press box, that the coaching staff of any said university, in this case Southern, you think they not seeing that and trying to stress that to their players that they have to coach?
If they're not stressing that, if they see that, then
no. First, let's answer.
Why is it? Does the play on the field doesn't reflect that?
Because sometimes, and this is, and I'm not trying to throw any player under the bus, but in the era of the student athlete that we have today, they're prima donnas. It goes in one ear, out the other, and they're going to do what they'll say, yeah, coach, I got you. But when they get out there on the field, they're going to do whatever they want to do.
I couldn't coach.
No, I couldn't coach.
Everybody was on.
I couldn't coach at this era, no.
But I think it's all about adjustments as well. You have a great game plan. You go out there, you feel that you have a great game plan. Whoop, first 2 series, doesn't seem like it's working. Do you wait to halftime to make adjustments? Some, they do that. Some can make an adjustment before halftime.
Right. Some of these guys, though, they have these scripts. And for the life of me, I never did like them, nor did I understand. Well, we got a script that we go by. The first 20 some odd plays, this is what we run. Man, to heck with that. If the script, I have a game plan, I have a sense of what you want to do, but if it's not working, abort and go to plan B, plan C if you have to. But you got guys that are stuck, and that's where some of these coaches and OCs are stuck. They are so egotistical. No, it's going to work. You guys just got to execute it. You guys got to execute it. Now that's coaching. That's coaching. But then when you have a mix of 2 egos and all this testosterone flowing, the student athlete is going to have to trust the system of the coaching, and the coaching is going to have to trust the ability of the student athlete to try to execute for both of them to have the said results desired.
So with that being said, a couple of key games, measuring stick games, coming up for teams in this conference. That Southern and FAMU game looms large now.
It does, and it's week 4.
It is what it is today.
Right.
No prediction on the game. Then next week, Edward Waters, the Pete Richardson Classic. Then back on the road again to play a FAMU team.
Right.
That's going to be hungry. Don't think it's not a big game. And then the next week, you're in conference play.
Right. And in all fairness, man, we could go over fall practice, 2-a-days, as we used to identify them as. None of this stuff really measures until you get into your quote-unquote conference play. We talked about wanting to win these non-conference games, but these coaches, in some cases, they're still trying to figure out what they are working with. And these games, although they're playing them to win, and these are some money games, these are approached in the sense of almost like preseason is for the NFL. I know what my projections are. I know who I want to have where, but I still got to get in here, and I got to come out the gate as fast as I can, as explosive as I can. And that's why there is no panic in the first couple of weeks of the season, because they know they're trying to, it's like a boxer jabbing to see what range, what he can and what he cannot effectively do in the ring.
Well, most of the coaches that you talk to at SWAC Football Media Day in the September, it would tell them a lot what they needed to know.
Because that's their equivalency to the preseason. With the exception, you got Pine Bluff and Alabama A&M, which is a critical conference game. Prairie View with Texas Southern was a critical conference game. So those games, you know, and you can't put too much in those games because everything is fresh. Everybody is still trying to get their feet up under them, and that's why there's more pressure, I believe, on those early conference games than to play those games in late September or early October.
Well, I'm going to try to get to some of the listeners. They have some points they wanted to make and some questions. DF says, hi, Grandma isn't dead yet. We win the Bayou Classic, and we will give Louisiana Tech hell today. DF, that's blasphemy. Are you going to sit there and talk about the Bayou Classic already?
The Bayou Classic is in November.
It's at a point now, unless you're Alcorn, and I say that facetiously, everybody else they can't take nobody for granted.
Right.
You know, it's 1 week at a time. UAPB, we're going to look at that game in hour number 2. Alabama A&M. You know what I've said about Alabama A&M and Prairie View, but they got wins.
Right.
In their first game, albeit Alabama A&M. Wow. I watched the third and the fourth quarter of that game. Maynard was going nuts on the sideline. Morehouse, and let me say this. Boy, I said A&M could win. Name the score.
Right. You and I both
Shame on me. Shame on me. I didn't know what the hell I was talking about.
Well, I won't say
because
that.
Because Morehouse is pretty. No, Morehouse is pretty. Then I thought about, wait a minute, this Morehouse team I saw a little bit last year, what was I think I had them confused with somebody else. But guess what? You got to come out and admit a mistake. See, if I'm a coach, I'll come to that press conference. Look, hey, I didn't fumble the ball 5 times, turnover 5 times, 3 fumbles. But guess what? I'm the head coach. I take full responsibility. Literally, I'm serious. That's how I'm starting the press conference about that.
Absolutely,
you know,
and that's what you're supposed to do.
I know another coach that was in this conference. It was everybody's fault except his. This same coach would turn to the crowd and answer somebody who disagreed with something, one of his decisions. You don't have to do that.
No. No.
But that's just me. As we get ready to wrap, our number one is gone. But to wrap it up, these non-conference games are important to me. That's my opinion, and I would like to see the day where I don't like to say we, but teams in this conference, they're winning non-conference games consistently. And yes, North Carolina A&T, they're getting it done, buddy. They're getting it done. Kudos to South Carolina State. Those are games I look, not just in football, basketball, baseball. I just look at those games a little bit more critically. We all know you got to win the conference. That you got to. You make it to the championship game and then the Celebration Bowl. Yeah, thanks a lot. By the way, it's still Atlanta bus. Okay, I got you. Boy, I tell you.
One game does not make a season, though, man.
No. And I said that in the summer. Some fan base are going to be disappointed after the day. Because you're playing up.
Mm-hmm.
There's one guy emailed me and said it's paycheck Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
He's being facetious. I mean, you could word it a little bit better than that, but...
Well, I had a guy tell me, man, he said Prairie View will not score over 14 points today.
I don't know.
I would hope that we got 14 in us, even on a bad day.
Well, and I know we're going to look at, in hour number 2, players of the week in the conference. I did see an interview with some of the Prairie View players, and basically, they had the chip on their shoulder. No need to do that.
But they started it, though. You got to hear the whole story.
Yeah, but that's just like you got to be strong mentally. If you know that's what they're trying to do,
I understand.
Yeah, don't give them. Now, if you can back it up,
But to refer to us as the purple team.
Well,
the purple team.
Yeah, but that's kind of, I don't want to say similar, but go read that Memphis commercial article.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to check that out.
It's all about the band. They love, they love that part of playing HBCUs. That happen to be on the FCS level because their bands entertain them.
Mm-hmm.
And one guy said, "Oh boy, don't miss the halftime show." I don't know. That just didn't sit right with me.
Yeah, that hit the old nerve button there, didn't it?
I mean, so if you go out there today, which they're about to start in any minute now, ball security, good game plan. It is what it is. You're playing up. Just try to improve. Right. Don't worry about the score. Just try to improve and meet your goals that you have set for today.
There you go.
And guess what? If they don't play them type of games for another 10 years, it would bother me one doggone bit.
Tell us how you really feel.
That's how I feel. Hey, be the best you can be on the FCS level. That's it for hour number 1. When I return, he is the voice of the Alcorn State Radio Network. Although he doesn't say he loves that smoke. He knows better. He doesn't tell me that. The Alcorn fans can tell me that, but Charles is not going to tell me that.
Sound like you got some hostility under you this morning, brother.
Oh, I'm just fired up today. A lot of good football games coming on today. In the man cave for pretty much most of the day, checking everything out. But I wish the best to every team in the SWAC, MEAC, and college football. But Charles Edmonds comes up next, followed by Brandon B.J. Jones. You're listening to the Coles Brown Show on the Open Mic Broadcast Network and Spreaker.com.
Diva Skin Conditioner could be the remedy that you need. Diva Skin Conditioner is a formulation that was designed with you in mind. Diva Skin Conditioner comes with a money-back guarantee. That's how confident they are in their product. For more information, visit divafeet.com. That's D-I-V-A-H, feet.com. Or you can speak with a representative by dialing 903-270-0026.
Chris, can you put the video game controller down for a second?
I can talk and play. Oh, I'm totally annihilating this punk kid in Nebraska.
I just feel like you're not acting like a grown-up in our relationship.
Him too.
Well, you still ride your skateboard to work, there's the comic book collection, the race car bed.
Look, I'm young at heart, but I put money into my 401k every paycheck. I picked up a few savings tips at feedthepig.org. I have control of my financial life now, and that feels pretty grown up.
Put away a few bucks, feel like $1 million. Putting some money from every paycheck into a savings account or contributing to your 401k can make a big difference later. For free ideas and easy tips on ways to save, go to feedthepig.org. That's feedthepig.org.
So, I bet I look like a grown-up to you now.
Well, except for the footy pajamas, I'd have to agree.
This message brought to you by the American Institute of Certified Public Accountants and the Ad Council.
Welcome back to hour number 2 of the Carlos Brown Show right here on the Open Mic Broadcast Network and Spreaker.com. Some hard rock music playing in the background there?
Just a little bit, man. Just a little bit to help you out.
All righty. I see the Alcorn fans out in force. Listening in, appreciate it. And now, without further ado, Charles Evans of the Alcorn State Radio Network joins us once again. Charles, good morning to you, sir.
Good morning, Carlos. How are you on this Saturday morning?
Well, I'm a bit fired up. I'm a bit spicy. I wasn't a happy camper.
Should we be surprised?
Charles, 5 turnovers, interesting dialogue in hour number 1. Jaguar Nation, pissed off to say the least. You got to love them, though. Passionate with a capital P.
Absolutely.
and by the way, you tell Dean Barnes, I appreciate y'all. I was listening to your broadcast, and I heard you mention my name, and Dean Barnes says I'm an outstanding man. I appreciate that. And good luck next week and this week.
Yeah, he wasn't a happy camper either after last week. I don't think anyone was, considering the special teams breakdowns, and that kind of was the story of Week 1. If you look through the Week 1 of SWAC games, kind of, I text you about it. I thought it was strange. I thought it was odd. Just a lot of quirky things that took place in Week 1.
Talk a little bit about that. A little bit more about that. Teams played up. Alcorn played up, special teams. You understand that Grambling State played up, playing up again. Alabama A&M, wow. One would say overlooked Morehouse. Some would say Morehouse, wait a minute, a little bit better than what you think. Jackson State and Southern, we'll have to give them what award? The Giveaway Friendship Award. My goodness. Jackson State, 20... but they'll cook with 28 points off of turnovers. McNeese 24. Charles, it was just weird. And then kudos to Valley. Played tough. And even Pine Bluff. Didn't give up 70 points.
Yep. I mean, I just found it odd. I mean, it was a game of foibles on special teams, whether it was kickoff or punt returns, missing field goals, turnovers, mistakes. You had a team play 3 quarterbacks, try to figure that out. One of the top quarterbacks in the conference benched in the game last week, and even a mascot got a penalty. And so you had a cherry, you had a little cherry to the Sunday there, and not going to get into that. It's just unfortunate, but it happened. I mean, so we can't deny that. So if you look at week 1, the 2 games that we didn't talk about a whole lot last week turned out to be pretty competitive, and that was Prairie View, Texas Southern. And I said TSU would hang in there. Prairie View's the better team, obviously, but you got to give TSU kudos for hanging tough for at least a half. And then Valley played Tennessee State, tooth and nail. Valley kept playing, and of course we knew Tennessee State was out there starting quarterback suspended due to some off-the-field stuff. So the 2 games that didn't get a whole lot of attention turned out to be one of the better games of the day last week. But then these other games, I mean, it just was a typical week 1. A lot of mistakes, a lot of issues on special teams, anemic offenses, turnovers, and they say the biggest improvement from week 1 to week 2. And we'll see if these teams definitely have improved today.
Well, speaking of improvement, thanks to my good source, Southern University drives right down the field and scores Jamar Washington on a 6-yard run. Interesting.
Good
So they only
start.
gave up 10 points to Ole Miss, and Southern goes right down the field. Extra point good, 7-0 Jags. Go figure, Charles. I don't know. But it's early on.
Yeah, well, it's a good start. I mean, and look,
Yeah.
when you're playing up in these games, the assumption is that it should be a blowout. So when you get punched in the mouth early and you're the overwhelming favorite, and I read the article that you said, I mean, some people say it's a 50-point, Memphis win and all that, but you get punched in the mouth early, you're at home. Now the Jaguars have to add to that and put Memphis on their heels even more to make them press a little bit. And of course, you can't have the other stuff. You can't have special teams. You can't have turnovers. You got to keep your momentum and keep the edge, especially playing on the road. So a good start by the Jaguars.
Yeah, 5 plays, 75 yards. Jamar Washington with the score. Somebody fumbles a punt today, they literally may walk back. They want to get on the bus. Of course, you can't do that, but you get my point. Special teams, and I said this during the week on social media. I've gotten a chance to go to some practices, FBS teams, and I think where you really see the differences is in the line, O-line and D-line. When you look at receivers, DBs, it's kind of what you see on the level that Southern and McNeese is on. Hunter Register talked about it coming from Minnesota. He basically said the same thing, as far as the skilled people. I think really in the line, O-line and D-line is where you see a big difference. To me, it looks like a 300-pounder from Southern may look a bit different than a 300-pound lineman from Florida State. But good start. Good start for Southern University. Mississippi Valley State loses to Tennessee State last week, 26-20. TCU over Arkansas Pine Bluff, 39-7. Bethune-Cookman over Jackson State, 36-15. We'll come back to that one. Alcorn State loses to Southern Miss, 38-10. Grambling State lost 31-9 to Louisiana Monroe. And then Alabama A&M with a score, Charles, with less than 20 seconds on the clock. They defeat Morehouse. And that was a good game. Much props to Morehouse. And, of course, Southern lost to McNeese 34-28. Charles, that Jackson State game, do we have to see this play out for 3 more weeks, or will they make a decision and stick with one quarterback, or will they play 2 quarterbacks? Who knows?
I in my opinion, and I think the way football is now, it used to be, we used to have the way college football used to be, where you had a 2-quarterback system, but I think that's gone by the way of the wildebeest, as Nathaniel Barnes likes to say. It's kind of old school. I think you're going to have to find a guy, and you're going to have to stick with him, win or lose. I think that the 2 or 3 quarterback system just does not work in today's college football because you have 2 different type of quarterbacks. And I think for Jackson State, one went down, and clearly they had quarterback struggles, they had quarterback issues. And most of Bethune-Cookman's points came off Jackson State turnovers. So if the Tigers protect the football, who knows? And they jumped out to an early lead. I think it's unfair to kind of criticize JSU's defense because they're just like last year, and the year before, and the year before, and the year before. Offensively, Jackson State has lacked 2 things: a serviceable quarterback and a decent running game. And I think that even though when you look at the yards, JSU was able to do some things, but offensively, you just can't turn it over the way they turned it over and expect to win, especially on the road, especially against good teams. And against South Alabama today, if they do that, it's going to be worse than 35-15 today. I think that they're going to have to decide, and maybe after this week, Coach Hendricks will make a decision. We're going with this guy, and this guy is going to take us where we need to go unless he gets hurt. I think in today's college football, you just can't play 3 quarterbacks, 2 quarterbacks. If you got 3, they say you don't have any. That's kind of the old adage, and I think it's kind of true. So I think at this point, after this week, I think Coach Hendricks will make a decision, just my opinion, and I think whoever that quarterback's going to be is the one they're going to go with unless that guy gets hurt.
I saw the freshman. I saw the transfer sensation. I don't think he has a grasp of the offense yet, the playbook. I'm going to be honest. My opinion only. Ponder, to me, seems to know the offense. He directs it much better. He's not the most athletic person back there, so I would go with him. But that may be an unpopular opinion, but I think he gives you the best chance right now.
Well, we kind of saw it at Grambling, in which they lost DJ Williams, and then you have a guy named Kincaid coming in off the bench, and once he was able to do some good things, the rest is history. And I'm thinking that it's going to probably be along the same lines. I mean, I like Ponder, but again, you have to have a serviceable quarterback to win. And I think you can safely say that Ponder, because of the experience he's had, can be that person. Now, when he gets rattled, when he makes mistakes, can he have amnesia and continue to play through it is the question. And can he stay upright and healthy is the other question. But I've said this before the season, and I'm going to stick with it. I like Ponder, but I do think Jones is going to be the guy before it's all said and done. Just something tells me that.
Yeah. 7-3, Southern Memphis kicks a field goal. So 7-3, Southern University over Memphis on that first drive. Skelton ran up the middle for 30 yards. And let me just go back while it's on my mind quickly. Last week against McNeese State, you remember the talk in the pros like Michael Vick, and the type of quarterback he is. He's a dual threat, and you got to go through your progressions and stuff. But then I think they start trying to make him stay in the pocket a lot of times, and I kind of noticed that about Skelton last week. A couple of times he could have, just used his athleticism, but it just seems like he's trying to be that quarterback, and which he's going to have to do that, go through his progressions and be able to make the other type of throws. But on a couple of occasions last week, he could have got out of there and did damage with his leg. So I guess you got to have that balance at times, knowing, Charles, when to get out of there if nothing's there, or don't give up on the play so quick and kind of sit in the pocket and let the play develop. So, I don't know. All righty. Thank you, Dr. Prince.
Well, what makes Skelton so dangerous is his running ability. So what happens is if Southern gets that going and if Skelton makes plays, obviously you crowd the box, you stack the box. And that means that you have everyone towards the line of scrimmage, and then that opens things up for intermediate or deep passing games. So I think when you have that dual threat like a Noah Johnson, like a Skelton, if you can get that read, that zone read going a little bit, it puts the defense on their heels. Clearly they went 70 yards. It was clearly on the ground. So Southern obviously has that dynamic going early. So I guarantee you Memphis is going to probably try to crowd the box, thinking that he's going to be that threat, and that should leave the middle of the field open, and you may be able to take your shot down the field.
Yeah. But, again, improve, get better each week, and that's all you can ask. Put a good game plan together, try to execute that, be able to make adjustments when necessary. And how do you respond to adversity during the game? So,
one of the things, Carlos, I was looking at with these schedules, we've always had these conversations about scheduling and how we're scheduling and who we should be scheduling and who we shouldn't be scheduling. You look at Alcorn, you're playing up, you're playing down Mississippi College today. You look at Southern playing McNeese, a good FCS opponent, in Memphis. I mean, Memphis is not on the FBS radar by any means. So I know.
But I will say this, Charles, they're picked in the American Athletic Conference to come out of the West, and a very explosive team. But I guess to your point, you tell me if you're saying this, you play up, like Alcorn plays up, then they're playing below them, and then they play at their level. I think Alcorn's kind of the last few years kind of always had a schedule like that. Am I right?
Yeah, and I think that when you're playing up, you have to decide what type of team you're going to play when you play up. Like we're playing Auburn next year. I mean, so we've seen that. But I think playing McNeese was great. They had a record crowd there in Lake Charles last week, and I'm sure a lot of Jaguar Nation are in Memphis. And so it's not like you're playing Alabama or Clemson. You're playing a team in Memphis that for years that they have not been on the FBS radar, even though they're picked to finish up this year. I think it's a good regional game where your fans can go and check the game out, support your team. So I think it was a good schedule, and I think it's a good stern test. You just got to stay healthy and learn some things as you get into your conference play.
Visiting with Charles Edmond of the Alcorn State Radio Network. Charles, what's your game of the week this week in the conference?
Oh, man. I would really like to see that. I would like to see that I want to see what Jackson State's going to do, and I'm just intrigued with their situation in terms of their quarterback. They got South Alabama today, and South Alabama's a team that they're trying to move up in the FBS pecking order. Obviously, upstart program, a team that just started football a few years ago. I'm really anxious to see how they do, down there and the adjustments that they make. And I'm also anxious to see if Valley, bounces back when they play Lamar. I mean, I think Valley feels good about what happened last week against Tennessee State, and I think if they play that way against Lamar, I think they'll push Lamar a little bit. So those are my two big, games of the week, and I'm looking forward to seeing how those teams do. But the game that I'm really interested in, and as a Gramblinite myself, and it's one that I wish I had a chance to have happened when I was a student. Grambling always dreamed about playing Louisiana Tech. That was one in football. It just didn't happen. Politics played a part in it, and just, all of that whole dynamic. But to see Grambling play La Tech, I think that's the game I want to see, because I just want to see those two teams line up on the field together, 5 miles apart, and just to see how Grambling bounces back. I was kind of disappointed they only scored 9 points against ULM. I was expecting a little bit more offensively there, but I'm anxious to see how Grambling lines up against La Tech. That's probably my number one game of the week.
Well, a listener just said, and thanks again, DQ. He's a big Alcorn State fan. I'm going to agree with him. UAPB and Alabama and them. UAPB improved. I was impressed, only 39 points given up against TCU. You remember the year before, Southern, Jackson State gave up much more. So how much has UAPB improved? The head coach very well. and then Alabama A&M. I guess I'm going to have to get the Alabama A&M fans to be trolling me as well, because I'm still not there yet, just where some other people are as far as the excitement. Alabama A&M at home against UAPB, conference game.
Well, I'll say this about A&M fans, and of course, when you talk to Alabama A&M fans, they talk about one game, and I've said this on your show many a time. You talk to Bulldog fans, it's all about the Magic City Classic, and then you ask, well, what about these other games? What about Alcorn? What about Valley? What about Jackson State? Yeah, but it's about the Magic City, and I think what happens is, I've noticed this, when A&M plays at home, it's not the same synergy as when they play on the road. Now, they played in Canton last week. They had a big lead. They had a 28-10 lead, let it slip away. That's good and bad. You let a lead slip away, and they had some mistakes. Glass apparently is a very serviceable quarterback for Alabama A&M. And I'm looking forward to seeing if the Bulldogs come out with the energy, the confidence, and the enthusiasm playing at home. And if they don't, and they let UAPB hang around, I guarantee you, the Lions are going to try to find a way to steal one in Huntsville. So that is, I agree, that's one to look at just to see if A&M can build off what they did last week. They looked good on the NFL Network last week, I have to say, scoring with 9 seconds left. And by the way, who scored that touchdown? Brian Jenkins' son. And of course, Brian Jenkins, the former head coach at Alabama State, his son transferred to A&M, and he scored the game-winning touchdown last week. So it's an interesting storyline with that. But I'm just anxious to see if A&M at home can bring that same energy as they brought at least to the first half against Morehouse.
Yeah, boy, he's spitting the image of his father, and very vocal after that touchdown.
Yes.
I know the emotion, very excited, but I'm like, please get the camera off him. I just, and while I'm saying that, I thought he was so emotional, I thought he was going to let something slip out, as far as verbally. But I was going to be on them big time if they would have lost that ball game. But I guess I'm slowly warming up to Alabama A&M a little bit. But we shall see. They should win this game tonight. I say should. They're predicted to win, but I think they will. But I just want to see how much UAPB has improved in this, in this early season. So it's going to be a good matchup, I believe. And some other matchups, of course, Mississippi Valley State at Lamar. The Road Warriors continue, of course. Grambling State at Louisiana Tech for a short trip. Southern at Memphis, 7-3, the last score I got. Alcorn State hosted Mississippi College. A nice paycheck, I'm assuming, from Mississippi College, Charles.
Yeah, a decent payday for the Choctaws. The first time ever that these two teams have met on the football field. And this is one that I'm kind of looking forward to, because as a person that's been in Alcorn, you always wonder, will we ever play a team like maybe Delta State or Mississippi College in football? And, of course, as you know, MC, they were a D2 powerhouse back in the day. They dropped to Division III due to financial reasons. Their former president had some issues financially, and they dropped to D3, and they offer no scholarships. Now, for the third year, I believe, they're D2. Carlos, here's a trivia question. How many scholarships do you think that they offer in football at the D2 level? We know it's 85 in FBS, it's 63 in FCS. How many scholarships max offered in D2?
I was going to say 38.
36.
Yep.
36. And it's just like anything else, a mixture of academic stuff. And I didn't know what the number was, to be honest. I thought it was a little bit more, but 36. So they're going to dress 70 tonight, and it's going to be interesting to see. And they run the triple option, similar to what Georgia Tech did last year. And they led the Gulf South Conference in rushing last year, averaging 266 yards a game on the ground. So the Braves are going to have to be, defensively very disciplined, read their keys, or else MC's going to try to move the football against us.
Got a couple minutes left, and I would agree with the Alabama State versus Tuskegee. That should be an interesting game. And, of course, Jackson State and South Alabama. Of course, we talked about UAPB at Alabama. And Antonio Brown cut from the Raiders. Okay, thank you for that information. And now Southern's down 10-7, 55-yard touchdown pass from Memphis. And, of course, Prairie View A&M in Houston today as well. So a couple of teams playing up. Conference games, week 2 in the conference, y'all, should be very interesting. And for those teams that are playing up, you just kind of want to make a good representation, be representative of yourselves, and try to just improve in that game. So Southern down 10-7, Prairie View and Houston, Jackson State and South Alabama. I'll be monitoring those games as well to see the outcome. Any closing comments?
Yeah, the one game also, Carlos, I think Alabama State, can they build off the tough loss to UAB playing their number 1 rival, or 1A, in Tuskegee, 2 schools 45 minutes apart? That's one to really keep an eye on as well.
Well, yeah, Tuskegee always is a team that they play well against the SWAC. The team that they participate against in the SWAC. I think that'll be a tough one, a lot to build on for Alabama State after that great effort against University of Alabama Birmingham. But still, that schedule is still tough. Woo. It's still tough. And I'll still stand by what I said earlier. They may be a better team, although the record may not show it. That schedule is one tough cookie. So we'll have the results of week 2 next week, and then Charles will be in the state of Louisiana next week in the big matchup, Alcorn State at McNeese.
Yep, looking forward to that one. McNeese, of course, they beat Southern, balanced attack. They had too many penalties that hurt them. They play at Oklahoma State tonight, so I'll be following that game a little bit. And looking forward to seeing the Braves take on a pretty decent FCS team. So we're playing up, we play down, and now we're playing a team on our level in the FCS. So I'm looking forward to seeing how that goes next week.
Yeah, and this is not your first time, if I'm not mistaken, right? Yep. At McNeese Stadium, you got a new turf. But I will be confident saying this. The results won't be like it was the last time you called the game at McNeese.
No, it won't. No, it won't. They have a balanced attack, and so I think we're going to have to be on alert for just about anything. And I like these FCS matchups, even though the guarantee of the money might not be what you expect when you play up. But it's a good test because you're playing a team at your level, which is the FCS. I'm looking forward to seeing how it goes. Yeah,
understandable. Well, have a great weekend, great broadcast. We'll talk with you next Saturday. Tell the Alcorn State fans I'm still watching them.
Jack Spinks Marino Castle Stadium's open for you, Carlos. When the Jaguar Nation comes to Spinks, you're more than welcome. Come on down.
Yeah, I was afraid you would say that. I think on that game, I may just see if I can give the pregame speech.
Make sure you got your bulletproof vest, man.
Yeah, that and
a respirator for all that smoke too.
Yeah, and also running them on the field may kill me, but hey, I'll die a happy man.
I got one thing for both of you guys: 400 yards rushing. I'll leave it at that. Have a good day.
You know what? On that note, bye, Charles.
He took a shot, and I just bragged on him.
Yeah, that's okay, though. That's okay. Every dog has his day, and a panther has 2 of them.
Oh, 400. I think my blood pressure was sky high.
Did you just say you had to take a break, Carlos?
Yeah, but he's got... He took a little shot there, a little uppercut right there.
Hey, that was a below-the-belt shot. You got to go to the neutral corner, man, so you can collect yourself. All
right, have a great weekend, y'all. On that note, we'll take a break. Yeah, we got to get Brandon B.J. Jones up next at HBCU Game Day. He'll tell us about his top 5 poll. Somehow I suspect Southern may have dropped out of his top 5. And we'll get his take on Black college football week 2 and the Southwest Athletic Conference. Brandon B.J. Jones is up next. You're listening to the Carlos Brown Show on the Open Mic Broadcast Network and Spreaker.com.
One voice. It can get the point across, but it only carries so far. Add a voice. It's richer, louder, but that has limits too. Add a third voice. It's even more powerful. Add another, and another, and many, many more. And we are stronger than ever. That's the power of a community coalition. They help community groups, faith groups, civic organizations, PTAs, employers, and many others in your community organize their resources and focus them where they're needed most, like fighting to keep kids away from drugs. Ask a group that you belong to if they should belong to a community coalition. It's easy to get involved. Visit helpyourcommunity.org and they'll tell you exactly how your group can help. That's helpyourcommunity.org, because you get more when we get together. Brought to you by the Office of National Drug Control Policy and the Ad Council.
Broadcasters come into our lives on radio and TV, bringing us information and entertainment. Broadcasters are there for us, but who is there for them when they fall on hard times? The Broadcasters Foundation of America provides financial assistance to broadcasters in acute need due to a critical illness, accident, or other serious misfortune. If you know of a broadcaster on the air or behind the scenes who may need our help, please share our message. Visit broadcastersfoundation.org.
I know that as parents, we work hard to do everything right. We baby-proof our homes, put our kids in car seats, and learn what to do in an emergency. Yet most parents don't know that children could be poisoned by lead paint in their own homes. Lead poisoning causes permanent learning and behavior disorders, and the culprit is usually dust from peeling or chipping lead paint, which goes from the children's hands right into their mouths. Keep paint in good condition in your home, daycare, and other places where your children live and play. Ask your doctor to test your child for lead poisoning and get your home tested too. For more information on how to address lead paint problems safely, call 1-800-424-LEAD. This has been a public service announcement from the Open Mic Broadcast Network.
Welcome back to the final segment of today's Carlos Brown Show. As always, heard exclusively right here on the Open Mic Broadcast Network and Spreaker.com. Our regular guest at this time, Brandon B.J. Jones of HBCU Game Day. Brandon, good morning to you.
Good morning, Carlos, man. Good morning. How you doing?
Yeah, Dr. Prince he's a character this morning, boy. I tell you. Oh, my.
Yeah, but you know what? It's the doctor's favorite time of the year, man. It's football season, man. So you get a different Dr. Prince, man, this time of year.
I understand.
It's a good thing, baby. It's a good thing. It's a good thing. I just want to see him sway. He said that song makes him sway. I said, well, were you swaying, Doc? Go and sway, brother. You want me to play it again so you can sway?
Well, you know, growing up, you always had those guys that will get up and dance. Then you had the guys that thought they were great dancers, but they were always sitting down, moving. And swinging.
They look good sitting in that chair over there, right?
Yeah. That I may fall in that category now.
That's all right, baby. The world may never know.
Yeah, I just don't get up. Well, BJ, week 1 in black college football, I'm very interested in getting your thoughts on the SWAC and the MEAC. What do you say?
Well, starting over in the MEAC, man, North Carolina A&T, kind of what I told you guys last week, they're going to be North Carolina A&T.
Yes, sir.
The names have changed. but the production has not. If you look at that defense, there's a lot of new names on that front seven. And when you go and look at the plays that were made, you go back and like, oh, my God, he's a sophomore. Oh, my God, he's a redshirt freshman. Man, the names have changed, but the production remains the same.
And once again, they win out of conference.
Top 25 win against Elon. A lot of people predicted Elon to win that ball game. A lot of people are impressed with what the Phoenix did last year, and Elon is one of those teams that's predicted to make a nice little run in the FCS playoffs, but Elon could do nothing offensively against the A&T defense. Nothing offensively against that A&T defense.
And somehow I think this kind of got it confirmed today. In 2022, Southern and A&T in the SWAC MEAC Challenge, you kind of think they'll still be good defensively.
No.
2022.
And this is the thing about A&T, a lot of people not talk about, Carlos. Two of their top receivers didn't play last week.
Interesting.
Franklin McCain, Mac, All-American corner, he didn't play last week.
Mm-hmm.
So they weren't firing on all cylinders just yet, and they beat the number 21 team in the country.
Yeah, and they were able to do it, of course, defensively. And when you think of North Carolina T, you think of them as a very physical team, and that's the way they play. And then special teams, where a lot of teams suffered in that department, they were able to kick the winning points, the field goal.
Win the ball game on the field goal, and a kid who had a bad miss. Well, they had two bad misses earlier in the ball game, and Coach showed the confidence in him to be able to knock it through. And he said that he can kick it from 50 plus, and lo and behold, he went out there, he did it. So, man, shout out to the Aggies of North Carolina A&T.
Yeah, I'm getting people to text message me the results of well, not the results, but of the game with Southern. I just heard somebody say a blocked punt. So I know Southern had the ball during the commercial break. But, one thing about Southern, if I get your thoughts on that quickly, they definitely, and I'm not trying to be facetious, but they look the part. When you physically look at them in warm-ups, the size, the athleticism.
Oh, man, they just got
yeah, but they just got to do the little things, and even from the coaching aspect, it's a different team, but finding out with all the weapons you have, utilizing them, and that's what you look for in an improvement each and every week. That's some of my thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, and the biggest thing for Southern is you can't have the mental mistakes, and turnover is a mental mistake, especially we're talking about on the punt return. The punt return, I would tell people this all the time. This is something that I've been coached and I have coached. When you talk about returning the punt, it's 90% of decision making, your judgment. The other 10% is you catching the football. But it's all about your judgment, and I think for a lot of for a few of those, the muff punts, this is bad decision making. And also, man, just ball security. If Southern doesn't turn the ball over 5 times last week in Lake Charles, they walk out of there a winner.
Oh, yeah.
The turnovers are the equalizer, especially when you give 5 and you don't get any. You're going to have a hard time beating anybody. Yeah.
And 3 were special teams. And by the way, special teams, once again, Memphis just blocked the punt and returned it.
Wow, special teams.
In hour number 1, we kind of had a debate about how much of it is coaching, how much of it is on the players. Well, would you say after last year, coming into this year, special teams needed work even last year, and now, albeit it's early on, you kind of see some disturbing or concerning things about special teams?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, and a lot of people like to overlook the special teams aspect of the football game, but the special teams are 1/3 of the game.
Yeah.
Special teams, can cost you a ball game. So you have to, we like to focus so much on the offensive and defensive side of the football, but that special teams play, if you look at championship teams, usually they are very solid in the special teams.
Yeah, well, that's something that's got to get better ASAP, because I know if you look at film, every team they're going to want to exploit that, and that hopefully, I hear from you. Some of the listeners they're hot as fish grease right now, and Southern went right down the field and scored to open the kickoff. All right, well, enough of that. Enough of that. It is what it is with this ball game. But South Carolina State, North Carolina A&T, they win out of conference. In the Southwestern Athletic Conference, any thoughts on some of those games in Week 1?
I felt like Mississippi Valley shocked a lot of people in the way that they competed with Tennessee State. Tennessee State was able to move the football, but when it got down to the red zone, Mississippi Valley was able to force turnovers and force field goal attempts instead of giving up touchdowns, which is big. I think Alcorn, even though they lost to Southern Miss, that was a 13-7 game for a long time, and then a 20-13 game for a while. Alcorn was impressive. When you tell me that a FBS team couldn't run the ball against you, that's impressive. So I was impressed with the way that Alcorn competed. Alabama A&M, I think the jury is out. They almost let one get away. They pulled it back, but the jury's going to be out on them. You saw some things that you kind of liked from Jackson State. It was a revolving door at the quarterback position. Much like Southern, they have to limit the turnovers.
Yeah.
Jackson State beat Bethune-Cookman up and down the field, but it was the turnovers that was the major difference in that ball game. And then we just got through talking about our Jags. Turnovers. Mental mistakes. With Grambling, I was impressed with the way that Grambling was able to run the football with the running backs, things that they weren't able to do a year ago. They protected Hickbottom fairly well, so it looks like they're improved. So I think overall the conference has improved. I think that Prairie View made a statement. A lot of talk was made about Texas Southern and then what they've done over the offseason. And Prairie View, it was a close game at first, but Prairie View made a statement. And I'm going to tell you, the Morton kid and DeWanye Tucker, man, that is an amazing 1-2 punch.
Yeah, well, they did it last year as well. Question from a listener for you, BJ. Said, ask BJ, could it be that these other schools have better athletes on special teams? And after first quarter, 17-7, Memphis over Southern. But a listener wanted to know, could it be that other schools have better athletes on special teams?
Well, special teams, what you have on special teams usually is you have a lot of reserves. And you have to have an attitude on special teams. A lot of guys don't like playing special teams. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm one of those guys that once I knew I was solidly in the lineup and the starter, I didn't have to do it anymore. I was excited. But you have to have guys who enjoy playing special teams because it's an attitude. And when you're out there just because you have to be out there, it shows when you're competing against a guy that, hey, we know how important this is. This is my job. I'm going to do it to the best of my ability. So special teams is always about an attitude. You'll see a lot of coaches that like to put starters on the special teams unit just because they know that they're going to get 100% out of those guys. So it could be, different things. The most important thing with special teams, like I said, it's an attitude and the willingness to do your job as a player.
Yeah, I understand. You have the same thing in basketball about rebounding. How can a person who can't jump off of a stack of quarters get a lot of rebounds? Mm-hmm. Attitude, position, fundamentals. And I kind of can see where this is going, and we're almost at the end of this week's show, but somehow, BJ, I think it's going to be a lot of conversation. You've got a segment that says it's both coaching and your special team coach and players. Then you got a segment that's going to say it's all coaching. And so I kind of see where the debate's going, but I had to ask you the question. A listener wanted to know about special teams because you remember last year, and everyone was saying that I'm gonna use Prairie View for example, explosive offense, defense, but their special teams were suspect, were bad, and so
yeah. And we saw special teams cost Prairie View some games.
Yeah, and that's why you got to correct that problem. Now, coaching players, look, you got to find the right. If it's attitude, who wants to be on there? You got to have some headhunters on there. I mean, it's going to be the coach's job to put the right people on there and get it done. If we got to spend more time on it in practice, then we got to do what we got to do, because ultimately it's going to fall back on the coach.
Yeah, you're absolutely right there, Carlos. Ultimately, it's come down to the coach, and you are right. Regardless of what happens, ultimately, it's going to come down. All of it will come back down to coaching.
I remember one time when Coach Richardson was coaching at practice, and he stopped it, and he basically said, "Look, my job is on the line, and if it comes to my job and your scholarship, guess what?" He wasn't happy with the effort he was getting in practice. I even got that point, and I'm just a spectator. Okay, let's start back. And practice was much crisper and cleaner after that point. Man said he wasn't going to lose his job. Pretty much.
Yeah. You just brought a flashback back for me, Carl.
Yeah, I was right down the sideline, 105 heat index right there on the practice field, and he didn't like the practice at that point, special teams.
Yes.
And he made his point. So we visit with Brandon B.J. Jones of HBCU Game Day, talking black college football. Now, without further ado, I'm interested in this poll. Your top 5. I suspect my favorite team may have said goodbye for a while. Well, at least for a week or two.
Yeah, man, the top 5, man, I go in there, I do a top 5 Tuesdays if you follow me on Twitter. I did top 5 for this week. In the 5 spot, I had the Prairie View A&M Panthers, and Coach Dooley impressed with the way they played there in the 5 spot. In the 4 spot, I have Bethune-Cookman. I thought that they, as bad as they played, they still found a way to win it by 21.
Wow.
So I have them in the 4 spot. In the 3 spot, I have the Bulldogs of South Carolina State. If you remember the South Carolina State defenses with Javon Hargrave and the linebacker that they had, whose name escapes me, the Darius Leonard. This defense is just like that. That front 7, oh my goodness. It's going to be tough sledding against South Carolina State. But I got them in the 3 spot. In the 2 spot, I have the Braves of Alcorn State. Was impressed with the way that they played against Southern Miss last week. And I think that defense may be a little bit better this year, which is bad news for SWAC opponents. In the number 1 spot, I have Old Faithful, and that's the Aggies of North Carolina A&T. I feel like I just feel like they're just there. I mean, I kind of feel like they've kicked the shoes off and sat down in a recliner and turned the TV on and made that number 1 spot home. But I mean, the Aggies, man, they are impressive again. And for them to have the amount of players they had out last week and still win it, they're definitely deserving of that number 1 spot.
Yeah, Coach Washington takes over, Coach Broadway, and just holding it down. And you remember him being at I'm just a few years older than you, Brandon, but with Mississippi Valley State, and just to see, that was like at the the press conference before the Celebration Bowl, and just sitting there listening to him. He's old school. He's old school, and he is what he is. They're gonna play. They're gonna be physical. They're gonna play old school defense. And then on offense, they can be explosive, but their quarterback at the time, he's gonna manage the game for them. And they're gonna rely on that kind of an old school way in a way, but then incorporating other things. They're just solid. I'll just put it that way. They're solid. Special teams. They are a team that gets it done. That's bottom line.
I mean, their team, North Carolina A&T, they have fullbacks on the roster. You know what I mean? Like, you see number 46 playing full. They have the fullback with the neck roll, and man, it's just, and they get downhill. It is not real. And I understand for a lot of people, it's not pretty. It's not sexy. They're not throwing the ball 50 times, man, but it's like rolling up your sleeves, and it's like, man, we're going to take it to this phone booth, and we're going to swing. And we're going to swing until you've had enough, and you're going to want to get out of the phone booth. And I mean, I love it, man. I love it, the way that they play the game. It's when you play North Carolina A&T, they really check your man.
Yeah.
It's not about a lot of scheming against them. North Carolina A&T is basically telling you, we're running the ball right here. Be man enough to stop it. And there's no film that you can watch to fix that. That's all right there in your chest. That thing that beats in your chest. They're going to check and see if you have it or not.
And that's why when you look at the style of play, and let's just be honest, Celebration Bowl, SWAC MEAC Challenge, they're doing better. They're doing better.
Yeah.
And if I look at it, when I look at just what team is physical in the Southwestern Athletic Conference that can kind of match up with the power and the MEAC, first team comes to mind is Alcorn.
Alcorn, yep.
Yeah.
The Braves, yep.
And Grambling State, they've represented themselves well in the Celebration Bowl. But you're right. It's old school football in a way. And
hey, could I ask?
They are
quick,
who they are.
Could I ask real quick, BJ and Carlos, who do you think the top 5 physical teams are in the conference of Southwest Athletic Conference?
Yeah, I don't think it's a but one. But go ahead. Go ahead, BJ.
I would say if I had to take a top 5 most physical in the SWAC, I would have to go Alcorn. I would have to go Jackson State. Southern. Traditionally, and I don't know if this will hold up this year, usually you will go with Alabama State and possibly Alabama A&M.
Yeah, well, I couldn't say otherwise against what you just said. I mean, no doubt it's a strong number one, Alcorn. They're physical. Southern in the top 5. I can say with Southern, they looked the part. Huge offensive line. Someone told me in Birmingham, SWAC Football Media Day, James Verrett, he said he wants to see Southern get a nasty attitude, mean, and being very physical. And that's what I would like to see. But we'll find out. Hopefully the SWAC will have some sort of success. Well, Prairie View won last year. Southern's won twice in the MEAC SWAC Challenge, or is it 2 or 3 times? You like to see the SWAC have more success.
Yeah.
And we'll figure it out. Hopefully. If not, the MEAC will continue to dominate. But that was a good question. BJ, a pleasure as always. Once again, we look forward to talking with you next week. Give me your social media handles where they can reach you during the week.
Well, you can reach me on Twitter at Inside HBCU Football, BJ Jones. On Facebook, also the Inside HBCU page on Facebook. You can follow all my work, as well as the articles, as far as the work that I'm doing in front of the camera. At HBCU Game Day. That's HBCU Game Day on Facebook, as well as Twitter. Also, check us out. The No Huddle actually debuts today, 11:30 on Aspire. That'll be every Saturday, 11:30 on Aspire. You can check out the No Huddle show. If you don't have Aspire, you can also check that on YouTube. So this is actually the debut show today. I've already got some alerts. People say, "Oh man, I see you on TV." So it's an interesting time for HBCU sports right now.
Yeah, good stuff. I'm gonna do a show. I'll take an hour one day and talk about how sometimes we're not appreciated enough. And
Carlos, your rate just went up to get BJ too, right? Your rate just went up to keep BJ on the show, right?
Yeah, I understand that. And because we're almost out of time, Dr. Prince, your show coming up tomorrow, and then where on the Open Mic Broadcast Network, our shows can be heard in different media avenues.
Well, man, different media. iHeartRadio, TuneIn Radio, Open Mic Broadcast Network on YouTube, obnradio.com, and it's so many, many more. But thanks for that opportunity, sir. On Sunday nights, 9 p.m. Central Standard Time, we have the Sports Report Live. We get live phone calls from coaches throughout the country talking about the weekend that was and the week that will be coming up next week. So if you guys get a chance, check us out on the Sports Report, 9 p.m. Central Standard Time on the Open Mic Broadcast Network and Spreaker.com.
I would like to make an appearance every now and then, but not after a loss. How about that?
Now, wait a minute, man. Now, wait.
Because I might burn down the microphone, but not.
We have replacement microphones, man, and you got to be rain, sleet, snow, or shine. But you got an open invitation at any time, brother.
I appreciate it. Well, that's going to do it for today's Carlos Brown Show. Of course, as always, heard right here exclusively on the Open Mic Broadcast Network and Spreaker.com. Quickly, Edwin says Alcorn, GSU, and JSU. That was his top three. I can't read any more. But until next Saturday at 10 a.m., everyone have a great weekend. Continue to listen. Peace and God bless.